The whispers followed them, echoing through the narrow corridors as the adventurers moved deeper into the belly of the Fortress of Crows. Faint and unintelligible, the voices seemed to seep from the walls, a chorus of madness that set their nerves on edge. The air grew colder with every step, and the oppressive darkness pressed closer, as if it were a living thing trying to suffocate the last traces of light. Ren, leading the group now with cat-like grace, halted suddenly, holding up a hand. "Stop," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the eerie murmurs. His sharp eyes scanned the ground ahead of them, where the stone floor dipped slightly. "Trap," he muttered, pointing to a thin, almost invisible wire stretched across the passage. Thornick snorted. "Course there's a trap. This place has been trying to kill us since we walked in." Ren knelt, carefully disarming the mechanism with a flick of his wrist, and smirked over his shoulder at the dwarf. "I'd be disappointed if it didn't. Keeps things interesting." He pocketed a small piece of the trap, an enchanted shard, no doubt worth a fortune to the right buyer. "Let's keep moving." Behind them, Illyra walked with a hand raised, her magic casting a faint glow to light their path. The weight of the fortress's ancient magic pressed heavily on her mind, like a distant scream she couldn't quite hear. It was suffocating, crawling under her skin, threatening to drag her deeper into the madness that had once consumed the Lich. The darkness here was alive, old, and insidious. She could feel it probing at her thoughts, testing her defenses. "Are you all right?" Lyra asked quietly, walking beside her with her bow at the ready. The wood elf's sharp gaze never left the shadows that lined the walls, her every movement fluid and precise, like a predator on edge. Lyra nodded, though her expression remained tense. "I'll manage," she replied, though her voice betrayed a trace of exhaustion. "The magic in this place, it's still thick, dark, but something about it has changed since the Lich was destroyed." She hesitated, as if listening to something only she could hear. "There's something deeper, something worse than a Lich?" Thornick scoffed, though there was no humor in his voice. "What could be worse than that?" "The source of the magic," Illyra answered, her eyes distant. "The Lich was just a guardian, a pawn. Whatever's driving this, whatever corrupted the fortress in the first place, it's still ahead of us. And it's waking up." Lyra frowned but said nothing, her grip tightening on her bow. Thornick grunted. "Then we keep moving," he said, though his steps were a little more careful now, his eyes flickering toward the darkness with growing unease. As they descended deeper into the fortress, the architecture began to change. The smooth, carved stone gave way to jagged, rough-hewn tunnels, as if the fortress had been built over something far older, something more primal. The walls were damp here, slick with moisture, and the air grew heavier with every breath. The whispers grew louder, though still indistinct, like 1,000 voices all speaking at once, but none making sense. "I don't like this," Lyra murmured, her keen senses picking up on something the others couldn't. "The air is wrong, too thick, like we're walking into the belly of a beast." Ren, always the pragmatist, shrugged. "Belly of the beast or not, there's only one way out, and that's forward. We've come too far to turn back now." But even as he spoke, the tension in the group grew palpable. Every step felt like they were walking into a trap, like the fortress was leading them somewhere, slowly, purposefully. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows flickering with shapes that danced just beyond the edges of their vision. Something was watching them. Suddenly the passage opened up into a massive underground cavern, and the adventurers stopped in their tracks, awe and dread washing over them. The cavern stretched impossibly far, its ceiling lost in darkness. Stalactites hung like jagged teeth, dripping water into a vast, black lake that filled the chamber. In the center of the lake stood a massive, twisted structure, part natural rock formation, part ancient stonework, like an altar or a throne, covered in glowing green runes that pulsed with a sickly light. The whispers here were louder, almost overwhelming, but they still made no sense, a cacophony of madness. Illyra shivered as she looked at the altar. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This is the source." Thornick squinted at the runes. "That thing looks like it was built to hold something. Or someone." "Something," Illyra corrected, her expression grim. "Something powerful. And ancient." Lyra stepped forward, scanning the edges of the lake with a practiced eye. "There's something moving in the water," she said quietly. Her keen senses picked up the faint ripples that broke the otherwise still surface of the lake. "We're not alone." Ren sighed, pulling out his daggers. Of course we're not, it's never that easy. Without warning, the surface of the lake exploded as a massive shape surged out of the water. A creature, ancient and grotesque, with the body of a serpent and the twisted, decaying features of a human, rose from the depths, its eyes burning with the same sickly green light as the runes on the altar. Its voice joined the chorus of whispers, but unlike the others, its words were clear, chilling them to the bone. Intruders, you dare disturb the tomb of the first? The creature's voice was deep, echoing through the cavern like thunder. Water dripped from its scaled body, and a strange, otherworldly light pulsed from within its chest. It was a being of dark magic, corrupted by centuries of imprisonment in the fortress's depths. The very air around it seemed to tremble with its presence. Whatever that is, Ren muttered. I'm guessing we don't want it loose. Thornick hefted his hammer. Aye, and I'm guessing it's not interested in talking. The creature let out a low, rumbling laugh. You do not understand the forces at play here, mortals. The first will rise, the world will return to darkness as it was always meant to. Alira stepped forward, her eyes glowing with the same radiant magic that had nearly destroyed the Lich. We won't let that happen, she said, her voice firm. The creature's gaze shifted to her, its burning eyes narrowing. You are the one, the key, the vessel. Alira's heart raced as the creature's words echoed in her mind. She could feel the magic of the fortress pulling at her again, stronger now, more insistent. It was as if the darkness recognized her, recognized the power she held, the bloodline she was connected to. But this time, she didn't flinch. She stood tall, refusing to be overwhelmed. I'm no one's vessel, she said coldly. Not yours, not anyone's. The creature snarled, its massive body coiling as it prepared to strike. We end this, Ren said, his eyes flashing with determination as he readied his blades. Fast! Lyra knocked an arrow, her breath steady as she aimed for the creature's heart. I'll distract it, she said, her voice calm but intense. Thornick, hit it from the side. The dwarf nodded, already moving into position, his hammer glowing faintly with the magic he had imbued into it. Be careful, Alira warned, her magic flaring to life in her hands. There's more to this creature than meets the eye. It's tied to the fortress, it's part of whatever darkness is spreading here. Ren flashed her a quick grin. Then let's cut it loose, shall we? With a cry, the creature lunged, its massive body crashing toward them like a tidal wave. Thornick charged, swinging his hammer with all his might, while Lyra loosed her arrow, aiming for the glowing core within the creature's chest. Alira's magic lit the air with a brilliant flash, and Ren moved like a shadow, blades flashing as they descended on the monster. But as the battle began, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a storm. The fortress itself seemed to react, its ancient magic awakening fully for the first time in centuries. The first was stirring, and whatever waited beneath the surface of the lake, whatever ancient evil had been locked away for so long, was ready to rise. And in the depths of Alira's mind, a voice whispered, "The price of power is always blood."